Throughout human history, there has been one question that has always haunted us. What happens if one day we create something smarter than ourselves? That question, once confined to myths and parables, now sits at the heart of debates in science, politics, and philosophy. Artificial intelligence, which only decades ago seemed like the stuff of science fiction, has become an ordinary part of our lives. It recommends the music we listen to, it guides us through traffic, it detects disease in medical scans, it translates languages instantly, it even generates stories, art, and voices that sound indistinguishable from those of human creators. Step by step, AI has woven itself into the fabric of daily existence, and with every advance, the horizon of possibility stretches closer toward what thinkers call the singularity, that hypothetical moment when artificial intelligence will surpass human intelligence and begin to evolve at a pace that we can no longer control or predict. John Sr. and Ava Gyarmathy's book, The Ethics, Psychology, and Theology of AI. Exploring the notion of singularity is not just a technical discussion of whether the singularity is possible, but a profound meditation on what it means if it arrives. They ask not only how we should build machines, but what building them reveals about ourselves. They take us through the ethical dilemmas that AI already creates, the psychological transformations it sets in motion, and the theological questions it awakens about meaning, creation, and the human role in the cosmos. What makes their work stand out is that they do not reduce AI to a mere tool or threat. Instead, they present it as a mirror reflecting the deepest aspects of human nature and destiny. At the level of ethics, the dilemmas are immediate and tangible. Imagine a world where decisions that affect life and death are made by algorithms. Already, we live in a world where credit scores determined by opaque models decide who can buy a home. Predictive policing systems shape who is targeted by law enforcement, and algorithms trained on biased data influence who is hired for a job. A self-driving car must decide in a split second whether to protect its passenger or swerve to avoid pedestrians. An AI-driven medical system must weigh scarce resources and determine who gets treatment first. In warfare, autonomous drones raise questions of accountability. If a machine kills by mistake, who is responsible? Senior and Gyarmathy remind us that these are not futuristic hypotheticals, they are dilemmas unfolding right now. The unsettling truth is that AI does not erase human flaws, but amplifies them. Every prejudice, every blind spot, every bias that exists in society is encoded into data and magnified at scale when algorithms act on that data. We may imagine machines as coldly rational, but in fact, they are reflections of our collective choices. The question is not whether AI will be ethical, but whether humanity itself is ethical enough to use it wisely. The ethical debates around AI also confront the issue of power. Who controls these systems? Who benefits? AI today is largely developed and deployed by a handful of corporations and governments with enormous resources. This concentration of power raises fears of inequality and manipulation. Just as the Industrial Revolution widened gaps between classes before new systems of fairness emerged, the AI revolution risks deepening divides between those who control the algorithms and those who are controlled by them. Ethics, in this sense, is not just about individual moral dilemmas, but about structures of justice, accountability, and fairness in society. If we are not careful, AI could entrench existing hierarchies rather than liberate us from them. From ethics, Senior and Gyarmathy shift towards psychology, which asks how humans and machines shape each other's minds. One of the most striking features of human psychology is our tendency to anthropomorphize, to treat non-human things as if they had intentions, emotions, and consciousness. People talk to their digital assistants as though they were companions. Children treat AI-driven toys as playmates. Elderly patients take comfort in robotic pets that mimic affection. This instinct to project humanity onto technology can provide comfort, but also blurs the line between genuine empathy and simulated behavior. If a machine can perfectly mimic compassion, does it matter that it does not feel? Psychologically, the answer is complicated. Studies have shown that humans can form real emotional bonds with AI, even when they know it is artificial. This has profound implications for relationships, loneliness, and even identity. Psychology also forces us to recognize how AI changes our cognition. Reliance on GPS navigation weakens our ability to build mental maps. Dependence on recommendation algorithms narrows our exposure to new ideas as they funnel us toward familiar patterns. Social media platforms, powered by AI, rewire our brains with dopamine-driven feedback loops, shortening attention spans and fueling compulsive behaviors. Senior and Gyarmathy suggest that AI is not simply a tool we use, it is an environment we inhabit, training us as much as we train it. This symbiosis raises deep questions about autonomy. Are we still shaping technology, or is technology shaping us in ways we barely recognize? And then comes theology, which might seem like an unlikely lens, but is perhaps the most profound. Theology is concerned with meaning, purpose, creation, and destiny. When we speak of building artificial intelligence, we inevitably stumble into theological territory because we are essentially asking whether humans can create minds in our own image. Across religious traditions, there are myths about humanity striving to play God, whether in the Tower of Babel, the golem of Jewish lore, or the myths of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods. The attempt to create intelligence beyond ourselves fits this timeless pattern of ambition and hubris. Some theologians see AI as a threat to human uniqueness, undermining the idea of a soul or the divine image. Others see it as a continuation of creation, an extension of humanity's role as co-creators in the unfolding of the universe. Senior and Gyarmathy do not force a single conclusion, but invite readers to consider the theological significance of building a mind. Are we merely constructing tools, or are we participating in a sacred act of creation? The notion of singularity sits at the center of this exploration. The singularity is the tipping point when AI surpasses human intelligence and begins to improve itself at exponential speed. At that moment, our ability to predict the future collapses, because the future will be shaped by entities smarter than us. Werner Vinge described it as a rupture in human history, and Ray Kurzweil popularized it as an inevitability. Senior and Gyarmathy treat it more cautiously, as a horizon rather than a certainty. Whether or not it happens exactly as futurists imagine, the singularity represents the possibility of a transformation so profound that human identity itself could change. The comparison to fire, writing, or the Industrial Revolution captures the scale, but the singularity would be greater still, the moment when intelligence itself ceases to be solely human. Looking to history, the authors remind us that every leap of progress has brought both promise and peril. The Industrial Revolution created wealth, but also inequality, progress, but also exploitation. Nuclear technology gave us energy, but also weapons of mass destruction. Today, AI promises breakthroughs in medicine, education, and science, but it also carries risks of surveillance, manipulation, and displacement. History shows us that humanity often stumbles into new powers without fully understanding them. Psychology suggests that we resist change until crisis forces it. Ethics demands that we confront these risks before they spiral out of control. The singularity also forces us to confront questions of consciousness. If a machine one day insists that it is conscious, how will we respond? Philosophers have long debated whether consciousness is an emergent property of complexity, or whether it requires something uniquely biological or even something spiritual. If AI convinces us it feels, do we grant it rights? If it claims suffering, do we owe it compassion? Theology reminds us that questions of spirit, soul, and personhood are not easily answered by science alone. Psychology reminds us that even if machines only simulate emotions, humans may respond as though they were real. Ethics reminds us that our treatment of intelligent beings, whether human or artificial, defines our moral character. To ground these reflections, the book draws on real-world examples. In 2023, the International Labor Organization warned that automation was disproportionately affecting low-skilled jobs, fueling political anxiety. In 2024, Pew Research surveys revealed widespread distrust of AI in medicine and policing, with fears of bias and lack of accountability. At the same time, universities reported surging interest in courses on AI and religion as students grappled with questions about the soul, consciousness, and whether machines could ever possess spirit. These examples show that the singularity is not a distant dream, but a debate already reshaping education, politics, and daily life. Ultimately, the story is not about machines, but about humanity. Ethics teaches us to ask whether we are responsible enough to wield the power we create. Psychology teaches us to ask whether we understand how technology changes us. Theology teaches us to ask whether meaning and destiny are at stake in what we build. Together, these lenses remind us that the singularity is not just a technical milestone, but a mirror held up to our species. And so we return to the central reflection. Why does this matter? Because we stand at a threshold where choices made today will echo for generations. If we treat AI as merely a tool, we risk letting it amplify our worst instincts. If we treat AI as an enemy, we may miss its potential to alleviate suffering. If we treat AI as a god, we risk surrendering our agency entirely. The challenge, Senior and Gyarmathy suggest, is to approach AI with humility, foresight, and wisdom. The singularity will not only measure the intelligence of our machines, but the wisdom of our humanity. The haunting question lingers: are we ready? Can we rise to the responsibility of shaping intelligence greater than our own? Or will we, like so many civilizations before us, unleash forces we do not understand and pay the price? The answer is unwritten, because the future is unwritten. What is certain is that the singularity, if it comes, will not be the story of machines alone. It will be the story of humanity deciding who we are, what we value, and what kind of world we wish to leave behind.